Jeremy Veldman. I'm here with my good buddy Bill Weppner, professor of mathematics at Southwest Tennessee Community College, and of course former NASA flight controller from 1968 to 1970 on the Apollo 7 to Apollo 13 missions. And we had the honor of having Bill Weppner speak at the Memphis Astronomical Society and tell his Apollo story back in November. And if you missed that, you have an opportunity to hear it again, May the 25th at the Pink Palace, and also June the 18th at the Germantown Public Library. And Bill, first of all, thank you for being here. Now, I got to ask you, what does a NASA flight controller do?
Well, Jeremy, a flight controller is responsible for a whole host of different things, all the systems and all the characteristics of the entire spacecraft, from guidance and control to environmental to propulsion systems, life support. My favorite one I like to describe is the booster specialist, who's responsible for everything from here on down. He has got probably the biggest job of the entire Apollo mission.
Yeah, we have here a model of an actual Saturn V rocket, and basically from here down is what it takes to get the craft into space, and then from here up is what actually landed on the moon. So it's really an amazing feat of engineering and took quite a team of both engineers and astronauts to actually pull this off. So now, Bill, Apollo 11 gets all the headlines, and we're coming up on the historic 50th anniversary of the moon landings, but you and I have talked, and you've actually mentioned that Apollo 8 is your favorite mission. Can you tell people why that is?
I certainly can, Jeremy, and I'd love to. First of all, there was the romantic part of it because Apollo 8 was launched at Christmas time in 1968. But secondly, and much more important, of perhaps 10 major objectives that had to be accomplished and learned really for the U.S. to get from Earth orbit to the moon. Apollo 8 accomplished 5 out of those 10 and was an amazing feat that we were able to accomplish over half all the objectives with one single mission. And I haven't told this to anybody because it just occurred yesterday, but I just heard from the Tennessee Department of Revenue, and they have granted me my license plate will now read Apollo 8.
Apollo 8, that's fantastic. Appropriate license plate for a former NASA flight controller. You know, we both watched the documentary that came out 6 months ago around Christmas, and I tell you, it's really a moving experience to think about a craft in low Earth altitude orbit, and then giving the command for TLI, translunar injection. You're on your way to the moon to be ensnared by the gravitational well of another terrestrial body. What an amazing moment in the history of our country. Now, Bill, we're talking about the Apollo missions. There were 6 successful missions, and of course 1 successful failure that you were involved in, Apollo 13. The launch gets all the headlines, and of course it is dramatic to see a vehicle like this launched into orbit. But you have mentioned to me several times that as a flight controller, the splashdown is actually the most critical and most moving moment of the entire mission. And can you explain why that is?
I certainly can, Jeremy. Splashdown and the descent of the spacecraft on those 3 chutes leading to splashdown in the ocean represents the culmination of hours and hours, weeks, months of practice, plus a successful performance of all the systems on the spacecraft, the lunar module, the boosting system, the entire Apollo system successfully performed over an 8, perhaps a 10-day mission, and it's all represented by the successful splashdown of that tiny spacecraft at the top.
Yeah, I tell you, that is a very moving moment. And I tell you, Ron Howard did capture this a bit at the end of Apollo 13, if you've seen that movie, where there was a 3 minutes of blackout with the craft actually splashing down in the ocean, and then just an explosion of emotion. Basically, when you get this part of the Saturn V vehicle back to Earth, most of the mass of the rocket goes to getting it up into space, and then when the mission is over, you have just this very small portion that actually splashes down. So it's again, a remarkable achievement. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of the historic Apollo moon landings, And if you are interested in learning more, the Pink Palace is going to be putting on a special presentation May the 25th. You'll have the opportunity to hear Bill Weppner tell his Apollo story, and then they're actually showing a feature of Apollo 11 First Steps, a documentary. Now, in addition to that, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going to be speaking June the 18th at the Germantown Public Library.
Yes, and I'm also looking forward to that.
Yeah, thanks again, Bill. Again, May the 25th, Pink Palace. You get the opportunity to hear Bill Weppner tell his Apollo story and show Apollo 11 First Steps beforehand. And then June the 18th at the Germantown Public Library. Again, we got Bill Weppner, former NASA flight controller, Apollo 7 to Apollo 13, right here in Memphis, telling his Apollo story. I'm Jeremy Veldman, president of the Memphis Astronomical Society, here with Bill Weppner. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you guys on May the 25th.
I'd like to know what you feel as far as the responsibilities of representing mankind on this trip.
That's relatively difficult to answer. It's a job that we collectively said that was possible and we could do, and of course that the nation itself is backing us, so we just sincerely hope that we measure up to that.
The whole Apollo program was designed to get two Americans to the lunar surface and back again to Earth safely. The enormity of this event is something that only history will be able to judge.
Apollo 11 has very simply been given the mission of carrying men to the moon, landing them there, and bringing them safely back.
I can feel it in here when it's on.
Okay, I'll flight controllers, go to
No,
I don't know. Go. GNC, go. Econ, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go for landing.
Go for landing, over. Roger, go for landing.